movie sticker that was in, and Gmail, all of that. This in the kind of yellow, pale yellow, is all the block stuff. At 1 in the morning. They try to get into again for the movies. Try to get to the movies twice.
16-ounce jar.
But I'm seeing quite a bit of movies here. And I'll open one just to kind of show you what it's, and I'm sure this is what you're seeing, but it's different each time. So this one was a Pinocchio movie. Is that Arabic?
I think so.
Okay. And then this one.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's cooking class. I'm Chef Asata, and we are here in the Captain Planet cooking room on Zoom. I'm glad to see everybody. We're going to let folks continue to log in for the first few minutes. So while we're waiting, go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. After you have preheated your oven to 350 degrees, let's get those hands washed really well. A good 20-30-second scrub all down between your fingers and around your thumbs. We want to make sure we wash the backs of our hands, even the backs of our knuckles and our fingertips. We want to make sure we get those hands super clean, because clean hands are the most efficient tool in the kitchen. And because we will be cooking with chicken today, we're going to wash our hands often. All right, once you have your oven preheating to 350 and your hands are clean, let's make sure your chat window is open. If you hover at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little chat bubble. You want to click on that, because I have everyone on mute. Whenever you're in Zoom and there are a lot of windows open, if those mics are open, we get a terrible feedback noise. So I have everyone muted, and if you want to communicate with the group, you just need to type over in the chat box. I see Lindsay is already over there. She's going to be joining us via chat today. Hey, Lindsay. So I'm going to type a message here in the chat box. And when you see that message, give me a thumbs up. Great. All right, that means chat's working. The other thing you might want to do, if you can, is position your device so I could see your work area. That helps me pace the class. I can see where everybody is and if we're ready to go to the next step. But if that puts your device at risk, then don't do it. We don't want to dump your device into like the oven. All right, so I'll be asking questions like, are you ready for the next step? And if you are, you could just give me the thumbs up. So we'll spend about the next 3 minutes just getting our technology set up and letting the rest of our friends join us here in the Captain Planet cooking room. I'm going to type our first message, which is preheat oven. To 350 degrees. One other thing you might want to do, if you haven't already, is you may want to rename your Zoom so that it's your name, because if you're using your parents' Zoom, I'll be calling you by your parents' name. Just your first name is fine. And you see I have two cameras open. One is up here. That's our Captain Planet cooking cam, so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. And then the other one is here. And that's because we all learn different. Some people like to look at faces. Some people like to look at hands. And this way you can follow along with both. So again, everyone is muted. So if you want to communicate, you're going to need to open the chat box and type your questions and comments in over there. We'll wait one more minute for our friends to join us, and then we'll get started. Thank you. Okay, looks like everybody's pretty much set up, so I'll just repeat that beginning part again. I'm Chef Asata. Welcome to our Captain Planet cooking class. Today we're going to be making a pesto chicken bake, and it's a really delicious way to cook chicken with a lot of flavor where it's still juicy and it's easy. So this is going to be a recipe you guys will do over and over again because it's delicious and easy. Let's make sure your chat box is open. Just click on the chat bubble at the bottom of the screen. Make sure your oven is preheating to 350 degrees. Your oven should be heating up while we're working.
We're working.
The other thing you want to make sure you have already done is wash your hands so that they are super clean.
I got it.
And if you've got all of that ready, preheated oven, clean hands, and your chat box open, give me the thumbs up. Great. I think the other two things I mentioned, you might want to have your device pointing at your work area so I can see how far along you are, and you may want to change your name on your screen so that it's your name and not your parents' name. All right, so if your oven's at 350 and your hands are clean, let's go over our mise en place. Our mise en place is actually French for everything in its place, and that's just making sure we have all of our ingredients and our equipment. So if you look up here on the cooking cam, you'll see I have a cutting board. I'm actually going to use two. I have one cutting board just for the chicken, and then I have this other cutting board. So you'll need two, because once you get rid of that raw chicken, you're going to get rid of that cutting board as well. I have a pan that's covered in foil. That's going to go in the oven. I have some cooking spray. And in fact, let's go ahead and get your pan prepared. Put some foil on your baking pan, and then just spray it with the cooking spray. Whoa, a little cooking spray. That's just to make cleanup easier. If you don't have cooking spray, it's not a big deal. Just make sure you have some foil on that pan so it'll be easier to clean. All right, I have some prepared pesto. Would be nice to make it from scratch, but when I go to the store or order from the store, pesto is sort of hit or miss. But I mean basil, fresh basil is hit or miss. But I can usually get a jar of pesto, and I keep it in the fridge because it's a great way to make everything delicious really fast. I have a little spoon, which I'm going to use to scoop the pesto out. I have some salt and pepper, which I'm going to use to season up the chicken, as well as some garlic powder and onion powder. A little onion powder and a little garlic powder. I have some mozzarella cheese, which I'm going to use on our chicken. And I have tomatoes. 2 or 3, I have Roma tomatoes, so we'll see how far that goes. And then last but not least, on a separate cutting board, I have my chicken.
Let me cut it.
And I have a knife. I'm using 2 chicken breasts because they're really large. But you can use 2 or 3, and it will be enough to feed a whole family.
Feed the whole family.
All right, and in the background, you hear my daughter, Kali. She's 4. Leave that. Okay. Okay, so if we've gone over our mise en place and you have everything that we talked about, give me a thumbs up. If you have the ingredient, oh, I also have a pair of tongs so I can move my chicken around. Tongs, or if you don't have tongs, you can use a fork. If you have all of that, let me see a thumbs up. Okay, it looks like a couple of friends are still pulling things together. No problem. So the first thing we're going to do, oh, one last thing. It's always something. We need a bowl. Make sure you have a bowl because we're going to slice our chicken, put it in the bowl, and then season it up. So if I didn't mention the bowl earlier, go ahead and grab a bowl big enough to hold your chicken. Just a regular mixing bowl. There we go. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is slice our chicken. And the way we're going to do that is you want to have your chicken so that it's going this way. See how I'm standing here and the chicken's going like across my body, parallel to my stomach? Have your chicken going parallel to your stomach. And then you're going to hold it with the tongs in the hand that you don't write with, because you're going to hold your knife in the hand that you do write with. And the goal here is to slice down across the grain of the chicken so that we're cutting our chicken into strips that are about 2 inches wide, like this. You don't want it too thin because it'll cook too fast and it'll get dry. So for each chicken breast, you should be able to get 4 or 5 pieces that are about 1.5 to 2 inches thick. Once those are sliced, put them in the bowl and repeat with your other chicken breasts. This isn't a perfect science. We're just trying to get evenly thick pieces of chicken sliced from our whole chicken breast so that they'll cook a little faster. Okay, so again, your chicken is going across your body parallel to your stomach. Hold the chicken with the tongs, and then use your knife to slice back and forth to cut your chicken into thick strips that are about 1.5 to 2 inches thick. If it's a big chicken breast, you'll get 5 pieces. If it's a regular chicken breast, you'll end up with 4 pieces. Put your sliced chicken in the bowl. And then you can get rid of that cutting board and that knife. Once your chicken is sliced and in the bowl, keep your tongs and then give me a thumbs up. We'll wait right here till everyone gets their chicken sliced.
You can just slice it with a spoon, right? I just touched the stove. It's not hot.
I'm doing 2 chicken breasts, but you can do up to 3. It depends on the size of your family, Kennedy. However many chicken breasts you want to use. We're slicing them into strips that are about
It
2
doesn't hurt, Mom.
inches wide. So some chicken breasts will give us 5 pieces because they're big, and some chicken breasts will give us 4 pieces because they're average size.
Whoa!
If you have chicken tenders, you probably don't need to slice them at all. You could just use tenders. Also, if you don't have chicken breasts, you can use chicken thighs. But what you don't want to do is cut your chicken too thin. We want them kind of thick, big enough to place a tomato slice on top. If we cut them very thin, like stir-fried chicken, they'll get dry in the oven.
I want them to get dry and warm. They look perfect, right?
Okay, does everyone have their chicken in the bowl? Nope, still working? All right, we'll wait. No, not yet. Okay, next we're going to season our chicken. And I'm going to type the seasonings in and then measure. So if you don't do it while I'm typing and talking, we'll do it again to measure. We're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper.
Don't want to get my watch dirty.
We're also going to add 1 teaspoon of onion powder. and a half teaspoon of garlic powder. So let's measure. Can you help me measure?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which is really just a generous pinch of salt. Okay, sprinkle that in there. Okay, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And I have a pepper mill, so I'll just give it a few turns. Next, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of onion powder. Sprinkle that in there. And a half teaspoon of garlic powder. Less garlic powder than onion powder because garlic powder can be kind of strong.
I got it.
There.
Oh.
Garlic powder can be kind of strong. Okay, once all of your seasonings are in there, use your tongs to mix up your chicken. Okay, and then set your chicken aside for just a few minutes. And grab your pan.
You forgot the cheese.
We'll get to that. All right, once your chicken is seasoned, arrange it on your prepared pan. So you'll use your tongs to transfer the chicken over to the pan, and you want to lay it out so that the chicken is wide, not narrow. It may have a narrow side, and it may have a wide side.
Let me do some.
Hang on, I will. You want your chicken to go onto the pan on the wide side.
Let me do some. Let me do it. Let me do it.
At that point, you can get rid of your bowl and your tongs.
Now we gotta cut this. Let's cut this. Gotta cut this.
And if you look up on the cooking camera, you'll see how my chicken is arranged. They're not really spread out. They're about 1 inch apart. They're also not touching. You want a little space in between each chicken piece so that it can cook.
Now this.
Wait, sweetie.
No. Scoop boo. Scoop boo. Scoop boo. Scoop boo.
So essentially we've made some cutlets out of our chicken breast. And then we season them up. And then we arranged our chicken on our prepared pan.
Now I got the tomato, which is actually heavy. I'll pick that up.
Okay, I see some chicken being seasoned. That's great. I see some chicken going onto the pan. That's great. We're gonna wait once you get your chicken in the pan so everyone gets caught up, because I want us all to go into the oven at the same time. I see some chicken getting sliced, so I'll just repeat how that got seasoned and repost those seasonings. It's a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. And even though our pesto is full of flavor and it's going to be delicious, you want to season the chicken so that it has flavor on its own. This way we're building layers of flavor. Great, I see chicken going onto pans. Once your chicken is all on the pan, you can get rid of your bowl and your tongs. So now everything that has touched our raw chicken should be over in the sink. And that's important because that keeps us from having cross-contamination. Chicken can sometimes carry bacteria. One famous one is called salmonella, and it can cause food poisoning. So whenever you're handling raw meat, you want to take care of that section first, or afterwards, actually, after your vegetables. But the way we did it today, they were just separate. We did our chicken, a separate cutting board, a separate knife, a separate bowl, separate tongs, and we prepared our chicken and got it on the pan. Now we've got a clean workspace. Not the same cutting board as the chicken. You want a clean, fresh workspace that has not been touched by chicken. And this is where we're going to finish up the rest of our ingredients. All right, it looks like everybody is ready for the second part. You got a new cutting board. You want a new knife to slice your tomatoes. You have your spoon and your pesto and your cheese. So here's the next part. We're going to open up the pesto and give it a stir, because a lot of times the olive oil in the pesto rises to the top and all the basil-y goodness settles to the bottom. The next thing we're going to do is take 1/2 spoonful of pesto and drop it on each piece of chicken. Now let me warn you, don't touch the chicken with the spoon. We don't want raw chicken going back in our pesto jar. You scoop up your spoonful of pesto and just bloop, drop it on the chicken. Once all the chicken has a drop of pesto, we'll go back and spread it, okay? So I'll show you what that looks like up here on the cooking cam. I'm just gonna drop a spoonful of pesto right over each piece of chicken. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm not touching the chicken. I'm just dropping the pesto on there. About 1/2 spoonful for each piece of chicken. Okay, so you see how each piece of chicken has some pesto on it?
Mommy.
Now I'm going to use the spoon, the back of the spoon, to spread that pesto out.
You know what it is?
Just to coat most of the chicken. And it's okay if it falls out or touches the foil, no biggie. But we do want to make sure most of the pesto is on the chicken.
Open the other one.
And we didn't talk about it, but pesto is primarily made up of basil with olive oil and garlic, a little salt and pepper, and sometimes it has nuts in it, like pine nuts or walnuts. It has amazing flavor. And by coating our chicken with this pesto, not only is it going to season it up, but it's going to keep our chicken from getting dry. We've all had dry chicken. It's really tough and chewy. This pesto is going to keep our chicken juicy. Okay, so I've typed our next step, which is to coat the chicken with pesto. Once your pesto is spread out, you can get rid of that spoon and put the jar back on your pesto. I said put the jar back on your pesto. I mean put the lid back on your pesto jar. There's nothing worse than spilling pesto because it's oily. It's real hard to clean up. So make sure the top goes back on that pesto, and it can go back in the refrigerator. You can use this on pasta, potatoes. You can even spread pesto on bread for sandwiches instead of like mayo or something like that. It makes a really good turkey wrap. So make sure you keep some pesto on hand because it's a quick way to add flavor to just about anything. Okay, we have 2 more steps before our chicken is ready for the oven. We're gonna sprinkle cheese over our chicken now, mozzarella cheese. And then we're gonna top that with our sliced tomatoes. Try to keep the cheese on the chicken and not all over the pan. If you have some Parmesan, that's a nice combination, the Parmesan and mozzarella together. That's enough. You just need a little cheese on each one. All right. Once you have your cheese evenly spread out, you're ready to top each piece of chicken with a tomato slice or 2, depending on how big the slices are, the chicken parts are.
This is this big.
So I'm using a Roma tomato, which sort of lends itself to being the right size. But if you have a bigger tomato, or even if your Roma is big, you might want to cut those slices in half so that they fit on your chicken. Also, you could use cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, but you're going to want to slice those as well. Slice them in half so they have a flat side, and the flat side will stay on the chicken. Looks like I'm going to need to use 2 tomatoes.
Yeah. Is this gonna look pretty?
It does look pretty.
Hey, come back here.
There we go. Hang on. And once you have your tomatoes on, you want to sprinkle them lightly with just a little bit of salt and pepper. Just a tiny pinch of salt and pepper on top of each tomato slice. Okay.
Hold on.
That's looking good, everybody. It's a nice colorful dish between the green of the pesto. The white of the cheese makes that red tomato really pop. Back up a sec.
Got one more.
Nope, we don't need that one.
One. It's just 4.
Okay. Once we have that all together and we've sprinkled some salt and pepper, come back here and give me a thumbs up. I want us all to go in the oven at the same time. And again, your oven should be preheating this whole time to 350 degrees. I know, the cheese is so tempting. Don't you want to just eat it now? Madeline's getting in on that cheese. Looks like somebody in Carla's camp is eating the cheese too. It's so good. Yep, just a little sprinkle of salt and pepper, nothing crazy. Just to season that tomato. So we've got layers of flavor going through this thing. The chicken is flavored, the pesto is flavored, and now we've seasoned our tomatoes and cheese as well. Once you are ready, like oven ready, give me a thumbs up so I know where we are. Great. It's looking really good. All right, it looks like most of us are ready to go into the oven. Let's go in the oven and then set your timer for 20 minutes. In the oven. And then set the timer for 20 minutes. Once your pan is in the oven, come back here and give me a thumbs up. Come back and give me a thumbs up once your pan is in the oven. I got 1 thumbs up. Let me see some more. 2. Who else has a pan in the oven? All right, you know what time it is. It's cleanup time. That's right. All the herbs and spices go back in the cabinet. The cooking oil goes back wherever it came from. If your foil is out, let's put up the foil. And then for the next 15 to 20 minutes while your chicken is cooking, we can get those dirty dishes and cutting boards all washed up in warm soapy water so we don't have to worry about that chicken contamination. If you have any cheese or tomatoes left, those need to get put away. Your measuring spoon, you're done with that. And your second cutting board and knife. You're finished with all of that. You're also going to want to make sure you clean up your prep area. So while our chicken is cooking, for the next 10 minutes, let's work on cleaning up, and then we'll meet right back here in 10 minutes. So stick around, stay tuned, and get some cleaning going on. So I'll see you in 10 minutes. The oven temp is 350 degrees. And the timer is set for 20 minutes. So we've got about 5 more minutes to clean up. This is a good time to think about, what would you serve your pesto chicken with? Would it be some pasta tossed with a little garlic and oil? Maybe you have some Texas toast or garlic bread in the freezer. Maybe you just want to saute some spinach with garlic and have that as a side, or some broccoli. Maybe there's some leftover rice you want to heat up and eat that with your chicken. Maybe you just want to cut up some fruit and have a fruit salad with your chicken. It's really up to you. Hopefully you've gotten everything cleaned up. And like I said, it's time to think about your sides. I'm just going to wilt a little spinach to go with my chicken. My kids would probably like some pasta to go with their chicken. We've got some time to cook up a little batch of spaghetti really quickly because it takes about 8 minutes. So if you get a pot of water on now and set it to a boil with a pinch of salt, you could get a little spaghetti cooking, or even egg noodles. Those cook really fast. And you could have some nice olivey, oily, garlicky, buttery pasta to go with your chicken. Or maybe you want to take the easy way out and just pop some broccoli in the microwave real quick. Fruit is always a crowd pleaser. And generally, we're always looking to get more vegetables and fruits in our diet anyway, because those are really healthy foods. So since no one in my family is a huge fan of sauteed spinach, I'm just going to make a little batch to go with my chicken. And since spinach cooks down really fast and really far, I can take my time on this. What sides have you guys decided to come up with to go with your chicken? If you could think of something, type it in over there in the chat box, and I'll read it out to everybody. Right here, I'm just slicing up a clove or two of garlic. I really like garlic. Spaghetti, that's a great idea, Kennedy. Again, with the time that's left on our chicken, you could cook up a little batch of spaghetti in no time. Garlic bread, that's what Madeline's doing. Fantastic. Garlic bread usually only takes like 5 minutes, so that's a great choice. Leftover rice. I love that because you could just pop it in the microwave and heat it up really fast. Great way to use leftover rice. Because the chicken is going to be so juicy with the tomatoes and basil, it's almost like it makes its own sauce. So if you're following my spinach story here, I'm just going to heat a little olive oil in this small pan because I'm just making enough for me here. I'm dropping the garlic right into that olive oil as it's heating over medium heat. I'm going to let that garlic sizzle just a little bit till it just starts to turn a little bit brown. Then I'm going to throw in 2 handfuls of spinach, cook that down with a pinch of salt. It goes really fast. In fact, I might skip the salt. There's so much seasoning on this chicken. By the time I put my chicken on top of the bed of sauteed spinach, we might not need it at all. Okay, Carla said you cooked pasta. That's going to be fantastic. This is a really great lunch or dinner. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. And now that you know how to make it, I bet you'll make it again. Louis says pasta. Yep, it seems like a natural match, right? You've got your pesto and your tomatoes. It just screams pasta, doesn't it? It's very Italian. Garlic naan bread. Oh, that's what Madison and Harrison are doing. Naan is some of my favorite bread. Well, I would eat way too much naan if I had it in the house. Okay, I can hear my garlic sizzling here in this olive oil, see? Let that sizzle just a bit longer, and then I'm gonna, excuse me, add a couple of handfuls of spinach. And the spinach will just wilt right down. Okay, it's getting to be about 5 or 6 minutes until your chicken is ready. When it comes out of the oven, you're gonna have a hot pan. So now's the time to think of where you're going to put it. You don't want to put a hot pan on a plastic cutting board. You don't want to put it on your counters. So get some hot pads or trivets, or plan to put it on top of your stovetop. But go ahead and have that area prepared for your hot pan. And the other thing you want to think about, because we just cleaned up, is you don't want to go into the oven with damp kitchen towels or oven mitts. So make sure you have dry kitchen towels or oven mitts to retrieve your hot pan from the oven. That sizzling is the moisture from the spinach coming in contact with the hot olive oil. Oil and water don't mix, even when it's in your vegetables. So those are my 2 handfuls of spinach. Just gonna cook that down briefly, and it will be ready. You can see the spinach just wilts down really quickly. Takes no time at all. And I just added a whole nother vegetable to my lunch. And when I serve this up, I will put the spinach on the plate like a bed and just put my chicken right on top. And we'll have a very green dish. And when you guys get your plates all plated up, make it pretty. And then I want to see a picture. Take a picture before you dig in. Question. No, it doesn't really matter if you used a Pyrex dish or a metal baking dish. It's whatever you have on hand. The foil was to protect the metal dish from being too sticky for cleanup. Pyrex cleans up pretty easily. If it does get a little sticky from the melted cheese, you can usually just soak it in hot water with a couple drops of dish soap, and then it all scrapes right up. I love Pyrex baking pans for that reason. They clean up beautifully. So we have just a few minutes left. When you pull your chicken out of the oven, let it sit for just a few minutes because it's hot and cheesy. And if you pick it up immediately out of the oven, it's just like pizza right out of the oven. All the cheese will fall off. So give it just a couple minutes to sit there. If your tomatoes maybe slid off, straighten them up so that they're nice and pretty. And then plan to make a pretty plate and take a picture and send it to me because I love seeing you guys' work. And a pretty plate really is a way to reward yourself. Sure, you could just throw everything on a plate and eat it, but when you go to a restaurant, a lot of what you're paying for is the presentation. So take the time to make a lovely presentation for yourself and for your family. It makes mealtime so much nicer. Sometimes just take the time to set the table. Everybody sit down and eat off of real plates with real forks and real glasses. Yeah, it means you got to wash more dishes, but it's that experience of being in a restaurant. And we haven't been in one in a while, and it may be a while before we go back to one. So we can recreate that restaurant experience right in our own house. So one of the things you're going to want to check for when you pull your chicken out of the oven is it done? And the way that you know is you cut into one of your bigger pieces right in the middle and check inside. If it's pink, it needs to keep cooking. You don't want to eat pink chicken. Your chicken is done when it's opaque and it's white all the way through. Or if you're using dark meat, it'll be brown all the way through with no pink. If you're using chicken on the bone, it's going to take longer to cook. And you want to check near the bone to make sure that the meat is all cooked all the way through. Also, the juices from your chicken should be clear. They shouldn't be pink or red.
What's this for?
The spinach.
What's this for?
To eat. And that way you know your chicken is done all the way through. Just cut right into the thickest part with a sharp knife and it should be opaque.
Now, anyways, what's this?
Mm-hmm. Okay, we are getting down to the final countdown. I got about a minute left on this chicken. Just go ahead and put my spinach up. Four minutes left, good. That's good. I think mine went in pretty quickly.
Wait.
But everybody should be done within the next 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm going to use mine to show you how to check for doneness too. Okay, back up. So using a dry oven mitt or kitchen towel, retrieve your chicken. And you see how juicy it is? How the pesto released all that olive oil and the chicken released its own juices. That's why it's really good to serve with either a bread or a pasta or a rice.
Now let's cut it open.
A bread, a pasta, or a rice. So I'm going to go to my biggest piece, and all my tomatoes fell off, so I'm going to put them back and cut it right into the middle to make sure it's cooked all the way through and there's no pink. Nope, it's white. So I can go ahead and rearrange my tomatoes so that my chicken is pretty again. Let it sit while I'm doing that so the cheese stays on the chicken, and get my plate ready for my chicken. The tomato should be just cooked through, still holding their shape, but giving off their good tomatoey juices. And if you don't like tomatoes, You can brainstorm and get creative and come up with other vegetables you could put on here. I bet sliced bell peppers would be good. All right. You got a nose itch. So I'll get my plate ready. As I said, I'm going to use my spinach to be a bed. My plate is this white blank palette, and I'm going to spread my spinach out in the middle, but still have some nice white space around the green. That makes those colors pop. And you notice I didn't cook my spinach until it just turned all mushy and army green. My leaves still have some shape, and I have a beautiful color here. So I spread this out in a circle to be a nice little bed, leaving some white space, and I'll put my chicken right in the middle, just like that. And because this chicken dish made such wonderful juices, I want to take a spoon to get some of the juices off the pan and pour it right over the top like a sauce, just like that. Now I wish I had some of that garlic naan bread so I could sop up that lovely juice. So there we go. Notice by doing it that way, I got some height, a little bit of drama on the plate. I was able to build it up so that it's tall. You have some beautiful color contrast going on with the green, the red, and the white. So these are things you can keep in mind when you're plating up. And I hope you enjoyed our time together. You guys, this chicken should be about to come out of the oven. I hope you like the recipe and you enjoy your lunch. And remember to take a picture before you devour it so I can see your pretty plate, okay? All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time, all right? Have a great lunch. Bye. Bye. See you tomorrow, Kennedy. Bye. You're welcome, Madison and Harrison. Enjoy your lunch. Don't forget to send me a pic.
Okay.